When I was 11 years old, Aerosmith released their album Pump. I was a fifth grader. And I remember vividly going to the store and purchasing the cassette that I listened to in my Walkman because I'm that old. And as an elementary school student, I was listening to the material on this album. I grew up listening to Aerosmith, Foreigner, REO Speedwagon, Journey, Moody Blues, all of them. My dad and my uncle were into classic and hard rock, and so I grew up knowing who these guys were. When I was real little, I heard their oldest stuff off Toys in the Attic. I grew up knowing Aerosmith real well. And so when this came out, I bought it. And you know what's amazing? Nobody said, yeah, that's probably not that appropriate for you in fifth grade, but I bought it. And something that I hadn't realized until recently, that maybe you never realized either. There's a particular song on this album that was arguably one of the 2 or 3 best on the album. And it's called Janie'S Got a Gun. Now, I'm going to say before I go forward, warning CSA and warning the use of language regarding weapons. Okay? So I want you to check something out. I knew all of the lyrics to this song, but I just didn't necessarily know what they all meant. And there is a particular word in this song, and it is a word that was used to replace another word so that this song could be played and broadcast on the radio. And I don't know how many of you knew that and how many of you didn't, but I didn't know that till just 2 days ago. And you want to know what word that is? Jacked. He jacked a little bitty baby. The man has got to be insane. Now, I'm going to be honest with you and say that I don't recall at that age if I even understood that that word was said by Steven Tyler, because you know Steven Tyler's voice, a lot of the things he says aren't really decipherable sometimes. That's his style, right? So even if I would have known the word jacked had been used to replace another word, I wouldn't have understood what that meant as a fifth grader. And I don't know if my parents would have understood it either if they even could decipher what Steven Tyler was saying. But it was used to replace the word raped. It was a euphemism for the sexual abuse or rape of a child by her father. Originally, the lyric was, he raped a little bitty baby. But it was changed to ensure radio play through Steven Tyler often sings the original, more explicit line during live performances, and I would have never known that because I never was able to see Aerosmith live. I was 11 years old listening to this. And a band that I had grown up to admire, things I would learn about the band later in life that I didn't so much admire, knowing that I was listening to a song that I knew every lyric to except that one, knowing that my understanding of what it meant as an elementary school kid was the furthest thing from what it was actually talking about. You know, as we get older, the things that we perceived when we were younger change drastically. And I know that you all know that. But this is a perfect chance for me to segue this into what is being revealed right now in these files and these documents. The things that we thought were real, the things we perceived when we were children. We're at a time in our life now where we're realizing things were not what they seemed. The veil was thick, and those who were connected in making that veil thick were hard at work. And many times, like in this case, sheltering us from understanding what the real meaning of that song was. That maybe that would have done some good for more people to know what that song was really about. I'm sure that there were a lot of adults who probably did know, but I was 11. I didn't know. And I would wager a lot of younger kids who grew up listening to Aerosmith didn't know that either, and just thought it was a really cool arranged song. And that Steven Tyler's voice, the way it carried and escalated up and up and up. Run and Run Away, right? I mean, that was what did it for me. The arrangement, the sound, the melodies, the harmonies. That one word. That one word was changed. And that even if I would have understood what it meant, it would have served as a veil. Because we have to be protected, right? Kids have to be protected. And now we're seeing the veil being lifted, and just how many of those same adults in general don't give a shit about protecting children. They don't care about protecting children at all. And it's my belief back then that that word was probably substituted so it could make a lot of people in prominent positions a whole lot of this, off of the backs of a band that was really popular and at their top. It's all about this. It isn't about protecting kids. They needed to protect their green. They didn't care about the kids. They cared about making money. And I've talked about this before. When I was younger, I wanted to be an artist. I wanted to be like the Aerosmith, the singer of Aerosmith. I wanted to be an actor. I wanted that limelight. And I'm so grateful that a number of different things occurred in my life that made it so that never happened. So that now at the age of almost 48, I can start to do what it was I wanted to do when I was too immature to understand the shadows behind it all. I didn't have what it took at that time to decipher and discern what so many kids were seeing, got into, and were damaged, ruined by an industry that doesn't care about kids. It cares about this and protecting predators. Peace out.